So when we're going to test the code how to use assert. Okay. So we're going to write program to find a sum and assert the I and sum. Create a new class, say assertion demo. And public static void main string args. So int let's use loop, right? For int I equals to 0, I less than 10, the sum of 10 number, I plus plus. So we're going to declare sum, int sum equals to 0, and we're going to keep accumulating the values of sum with I. We start to assert. So this is the Boolean expression, assert I equals to 10. Now if we declare int I like that, we can assert I outside the scope, right? Scope of I is only in the curly braces. You can see I, so I have to declare I outside, so we can assert now. So let's see when we run. So this one we'll call, if there's an error, it's called assert errors. Now there's no errors, right? So assert I greater than 10. So I less than, assert I less than 0. Okay, so let's see what should be the value. So we may see that if we keep running this, it will not work. It actually works, right? So like if we want to evaluate, right? If it's true, it should return 10. If it's not, I mean, it should not return anything. But if it's not true, it should return an invalid statement. So the assertion is not enabled with IntelliJ. I'm sure there should be a way to set it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to test this with the console. So I'm going to save this file, AssertionDemo.java, and we need to compile it, javac AssertionDemo.java, to run. If you run without enabling it, assertion demo, you pretty much just not gonna get anything. Just like in IntelliJ, you need to enable with the parameters like -EA, enable assertions, enable assertion EA. Then it's just say there's an errors, right? Look at our code again. When I say I equal to 0, now I is not equal to 0. That's why there's an error. Then say I should be 10. So this is like assertion though exceptions for you. And it's called the assertion errors exceptions. That's how we test it, right? We can also test the sum So this is the expressions, logical expressions. Now we keep adding the sum. If there's an error, it should assert, like assert used to test the code. Recompiling the code. And when you run, you just need to do enable assertions. So there's an error, right? Because sum is 45, which it says sum should be less than 10. It's not less than 10, it's false, right? Then it's throwing error, sum is 45. So that's how we use assert. But you have to enable it. Right, so compiling a program with assertions. So assert the new Java keyword introduced in JDK 1.4. You have to compile the program using JDK 1.4 compiler. Furthermore, you need to include a switch in the compiler commands as follows. Source 1.4. See that? But if it's you use JDK 1.5 and later, you don't need to use that parameters in Java C. And here, right, when you run assertion, disable by default. To enable it, use the switch enable assertions like -EA. So that's how we just look at it. Assertion can be selectively enabled or disabled at class level or package level. The disable switch is disable assertions, or DA for short. Right, disable assertion. The following command enable assertion in package 1, and disable assertion in class 1. You can do at the same time. So the point of having assertion is good for testing. That's why when we run the program, the assertion code can still in there, and it will never get to that point or show the output because we never enable it. And if you want to test, then just enable to see the output. And assertion should not be used to replace exception handling. Exception handling deals with unusual circumstances during program execution. Assertion are to assure the correctness of the program. Exception handling addresses robustness, and assertion addresses correctness. Like exception handling, assertions are not used for normal tests, but for internal consistency and validity checks. Assertions are checked at runtime and can be turned on or off at startup time. Do not use assertion for argument checking in public method. Valid arguments that may be passed to a public method can consider to be part of the method's contract. The contract must always be obeyed, whether assertions are enabled or disabled. For example, the following code in the circle class should be rewritten using exception handling instead of use assert. Do not use assertion for argument checkings like that. New register greater than equal to 0. You should try catch or exception handling. So use assertion to reaffirm assumptions. This gives you more confidence to assure correctness of the program. A common use of the assertion is to replace assumption with assertion in the code. So you can look at, we use assertion to validate the logic errors. We use exceptions to protect the runtime errors. Another good use of assertion is place assertion in a switch statement without default case. For example, So this is switch statements, right? Case 1, case 2, case 12. Now default, we should make it like invalid month, right? Assert false. Alright, so now let's look at the file class. So the file class is intended to provide an abstraction that deals with most of the machine-dependent complexity of files path. The file name is a string. The file class is a wrapper class for the file name and its directory path. So we're using file to deal with the file and path. So let's look at file class. This is Uml diagram. So we have 3 constructors, one with the path name, one with the path name and the string, one with the file name and the string. So you use the first one to specify the path of the file. The second one, create a file object for the child under the directory parent. So we provide a parent's directory and create a file object with a file name. So this one you can just create the path including the file name. And the third one, you create a file object for the child under the directory parents. And the parent is the file object. Now we can try to create the files here. So let's create a new class. We're going to test how to use the file. So I'm going to name file demo. And public static void main string args. So we're going to do file, right? A file equals to new file. And remember, constructor, we have 3 types of constructor. Oh, cancel. We can specify the path, right? So let's get the path. Let's use our path to the desktop, which is this path. Let me make directory file demo. So this is the path that we want to use. Let's copy the path. So string, right? Paste. And inside the folder, we're going to create a file name test.txt. Now we need to import file, right? Class. And let's run the program. Okay, so it's done. We're going to go to that folder. File demo. Okay, so when you run this program will not do anything yet. Now when we check the directories, there's no such test.txt in here. So that's a method that we can check if the test.txt exists, return true if it exists. So we're going to put that method here. File that exists and run it. It should return false because if